All right. Looks like that we are live. Just gonna hang out for a little bit to let people come on. Jeff, how's the week going? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. It's going good.
Yeah.
Just get through the week. We have spring break next week, so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. Where are you gonna go? Anywhere fun?
So we're actually taking a cruise down to Mexico.
Dude, that sounds wonderful. Have
Yeah.
you ever done that before?
Yeah, me and my family went down whenever I was 10, but it's been a while since I traveled outside of the country since then.
Wow. That's gonna be so nice to get away from the cold, from everything. So here's the deal, everyone. If you're tuning in, please let me know where are you watching from. There's nothing better than community. So drop just your city and something that you're excited to look forward to about tonight. It's gonna be an awesome evening. Just having an opportunity for you to meet a superpower mentor. And tonight we have someone very special. So let's get started, shall we? You ready, Jeff?
Sounds good with me.
All right, boss. Okay, so my name is Jake Sussman. It's so nice to meet you. I am the founder and program director of Superpower Mentors. We are a mentorship platform that matches neurodiverse youth to a neurodiverse mentor anywhere in the world. And what we've been doing is every week we invite our superpower mentors to hop on and to share their story, and it's a chance for you to meet someone that has gone through and been through the educational trenches and won. Okay, so with that, Jeff, welcome.
Hey, so my name's Jeff. I'm currently senior at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. I'm a biology major with minors in business and biochemistry who's also in the honors college. Currently, I'm a Superpower Mentor and also the program manager for Superpower Mentors. And next year, I'll be attending Texas College of Osteopathic Medicine in Fort Worth. So soon to be a doctor.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. And for our families tuning in here, if you have any kids or if you know anyone with kids that have an aspiration to go into the medical field, but maybe a little concerned about the level of work needed, especially for someone with dyslexia, this is an interview that you should not miss. All right. So, Jeff, you have dyslexia, and obviously having dyslexia, there are a lot of challenges that come up in school. Okay, so take me through, what was it like for you growing up with dyslexia?
Yeah, so I first started to notice my dyslexia in around kindergarten. Before then, everything was going great. School was easy. But then I hit about that kindergarten grade level, and that's whenever everything started to get hard. I couldn't take my exams because reading was too hard. Any writing projects that we had, I felt like I wasn't able to do them. And I just for a couple years, I was really wondering, why is this so hard? But then fast forward to around first grade, second grade, then I was diagnosed with dyslexia. So I finally found out what was not wrong with me, but what was different between me and some of the other kids. And through working with multiple tutors inside of school and outside of school, I was able to realize that I learned differently than a lot of the other kids I was studying with, and that I should use that as my superpower. So I took some strategies and I applied that to my schooling and my tutoring. And here I am, got through high school, got through college, was able to do really well in high school, and then also now college and hopefully in the future in medical school.
So what was the workload hard for you? Like, what were some of the challenges that you faced with your dyslexia growing up?
Yeah, so growing up, it was just, I felt like I couldn't read and write. I would say it's the workload, but also just I felt like I was falling behind because a lot of the teachers, whenever I was really struggling with my dyslexia, they were teaching a way that I couldn't learn the material. So whenever I started working with my tutors, they taught in a way um, that was teaching kids with dyslexia and more towards their skills instead of other skills.
Yeah, yeah, it's really tough because look, a lot of us in this space, especially with the parents dealing with kids with learning differences and teachers trying to find different ways to may not understand how to teach a dyslexic. How old were you when you realized that the teachers weren't reaching you properly?
Yeah. So I would say it came to the first realization whenever it was in kindergarten, whenever I first started struggling. But then I also realized it later on in high school, whenever I started becoming more cognizant of what dyslexia actually was.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. I mean, so many kids that I've spoken to say that they can't read because of their dyslexia. It is one of the most common stereotypes associated to it. What do you have to say to those kids? And for our parents tuning in, please either record this. This will be recorded, so don't worry. You can come back and watch it. Grab your kids, because this is really important. Because, Jeff, what, with being leaving or thinking that you may not be able to read, like, can you speak upon that a little bit? Because becoming a doctor requires a lot of reading. So how does dyslexia impact your pursuit to becoming a doctor?
Yeah. So to kind of take that first part of your question first, I would say to the students and then also the parents that dyslexia isn't an inability to read. It's a superpower, actually. So it's just your mind works differently than a lot of the other students. So whenever I was a kid and I was getting down on myself, whenever I felt like I couldn't read, I came to the realization that it wasn't that I couldn't read. It's that I read differently and my mind worked differently than other students. But sorry, remind me of that second part of that question.
No, it's okay. So what I want to know though is the belief is that students with dyslexia believe that they can't read. So what do we have to say? What can you say or speak on to those students that believe that they can't read? And becoming a doctor, there's a lot of reading involved in that. So how does your dyslexia impact that pursuit?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think any student should let their dyslexia make them fall behind, because even though I do struggle with dyslexia, I was able to overcome it and get to the level that I am going to medical school next year. So, yeah, I don't think any student should let that keep them from pursuing their pursuits.
Was there ever a moment where you realize, like, you thought that you weren't good because of your dyslexia, or did you always think that it was a superpower, for example?
Yeah, so I mean, to be honest, before about high school and then also college, whenever I started working with Jake and he started to change my mind regarding dyslexia, there was a lot of times whenever I thought dyslexia was just an inability to read. So there was a lot of times whenever I was really struggling with the fact that I had dyslexia.
It's tough, man. Like, it's like, how do we believe, like, when we're told something, it's so easy for us to fall into that trap of believing it, even if they can hold us back. Now, you mentioned that we've had a lot of different conversations around shifting that narrative. Do you remember any of that conversation that you can share that really hit home for you, that caused you to start to rethink dyslexia?
Yeah, so I forget exactly when it was. I think it was maybe whenever I first joined Superpower. But I remember you and I were talking, and we started talking about all of the things that dyslexic individuals can do better than individuals without dyslexia. So there's been a lot of research, and we can also share that with you guys as well. But there's been a lot of research on how students with dyslexia are more creative than students without dyslexia. So that really helped me realize that dyslexia was a superpower, because I know that in all of my pursuits, I love being creative. I am very creative.
What are you creative about?
So I love to bake. That's one way that I'm really creative. I also like running. So whether it's just going on a new path or trying a new training plan, I like to be creative in those aspects.
How can kids find those outlets? Because that's something that we talk about a lot, the importance of having healthy outlets. So how can we encourage kids to find those outlets?
Yeah. So, I mean, outlets are really important, but I think it's just a trial and error. Whenever I was growing up, there was a lot of different outlets I tried, whether that was sports or creative outlets or karate. I tried literally everything under the sun. But then whenever I came across running, I realized that that was one for me. So I think trial and error is probably the best way to do so.
Oh, wow. Yeah. No, I definitely think that that's probably one of the most uh, when it comes to things that we can control, like there's only so much that we can do with a school. Like if we're dealing with a teacher that doesn't understand how to teach, but there are ways that we can influence our kids to help them find those healthy outlets that will impact their confidence in the classroom. You know what I mean? So yeah, no, that's so massive. Okay, so you're a mentor for Superpower. What's it like being a mentor? Why are you a mentor? What's that draw for you about Superpower Mentors?
Yeah. So, firstly, being a Superpower Mentor, I love everything about it. I love being able to help the students and the kids who are struggling just like I was in the past. So that's the main reason why I'm doing it, is so that I'm able to help those students who are struggling with something that I was experiencing in the past, and I can bring some of the wisdom and also some of the knowledge that I have on it, and to be able to help them.
Yeah, I think that that's something that a lot of the mentors, and also one of the reasons why we started this in the first place, because there's a huge component to being a mentor that's healing in and of itself. You know what I mean? So, Jeff, what's something that you're thinking about now as it relates to dyslexia and education? Because like you're really in this space, right? And you're in the medical field. What's something that is like piquing your interest with just the world of dyslexia?
Sorry, can you say it again? You kind of cut
Yeah.
out.
So what's something that's piquing your interest in the world of dyslexia? Like what's something that you are kind of focusing on, or is there something that you're focusing on that you can speak to, whether it's just the way that we look at it? And I know that you talked about dyslexia being a superpower. So what's something that you are drawn to with dyslexia?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I think is really important with students with dyslexia is definitely the mental health aspect of it. So there was a lot of times whenever I was really struggling with my dyslexia that mental health played a big role into it, whether it be positive or negative. So I think mental health is a really important aspect of dyslexia that not a lot of people talk about, but that should be talked about more. So, and one way that I think is great for students who are struggling with mental health and dyslexia in combination can help improve that is through their outlets. Because there's a lot of times whenever I was struggling with my dyslexia that I could look to my outlets like running and those sort of things to be able to give me a lot more confidence.
So what you're saying, and this is so, I love this, right? And we can focus all we want on the reading part, right? Teaching a kid how to read, right? There's so many different parts of having dyslexia, right? That impacts us academically. But there's this whole other side to it, which is mental health. And I think it's so easy to overlook that. So let's kind of dive in on that. And for our parents tuning in here for the first time, like, please just, again, share where you're watching from, ask your questions. This is Jeff. Jeff has dyslexia. He's an aspiring doctor, which is honestly, it's so incredible because, again, so many kids struggle in school academically with dyslexia, especially as it relates to reading. And now you have someone with dyslexia that wants to become a doctor. So it's really incredible. And something, Jeff, that you're saying that I really want us to hone in on here is that mental health component. Okay. So, all right, let's talk about that. So let's talk first morning routines. How can we develop a morning routine during either the school day or the weekend? Well, let's actually start with school day morning routine. What do you recommend? Like, what's a good way that we can kick off our day in a positive note?
Sorry, it's kind of laggy and you're
Is it
kind of cutting out.
laggy?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not good because, all right, let's try this again. Can you, and if it's laggy for anyone else watching this, please comment and let me know, and I may have to troubleshoot live. Okay, so if it's clear for you, just give me a shout and let me know the feedback in the comments. Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about the mental health component? Let's start with the morning routine. Because you win the morning, win the day, right? So how can someone have a successful morning? What's some suggestions or tips to start with having a successful morning? Let's start there.
Yeah. So definitely, I think starting out the day on the right foot just creates a habit for the rest of the day to have a really successful day. But for me, it's consistently waking up at the same time. Weekends is a little bit different because as a college student, that's kind of whenever you get to sleep in. But I normally try and wake up anywhere from 5 to 6 a.m. And I know that kind of seems a little bit early for a college student, but I really like doing that because I can get up, I can plan for the day, whether it's I have meetings coming up or if I have different club activities or classes to go to. I can plan out for the day and know exactly what I need to take on that day. And then if there's any assignments, I can plan for what time I'm going to get those done, how long it's going to take to get those done. So I think, at least for me, the most important aspect of a morning routine is planning out the rest of my day so I have enough time to be able to complete all of those aspects. And then I guess the second most important aspect to me in that morning routine is having some sort of physical exercise in the morning. So whether that's a walk or run, since I really like running, just having my body moving to get some blood flow to my brain is another really great way to start off the
Okay,
day.
question on the exercise in the morning. And I just want to bring up Sally Jacob said something great about it also, that, people are agreeing to this. This is a big topic with the mental health component. So Sally, thank you for sharing that. Again, it's a super important piece to the puzzle that we're tackling right now. All right. So let's talk about the morning routine with it. So physical exercise. We agree that physical exercise in the morning is super important. I get it. But what about like in high school? Did you run in high school? Did you do physical exercise in the morning in high school? Yeah. And then we just got a question asked, and I'm going to bring it up. So answer my first question, then I'll bring up another question that was just asked. Go ahead.
Definitely. Yeah. So in high school, exercise in the morning was definitely still a really big part of my routine. Being on the cross country team, we had practice anywhere from 5 to 6 a.m. So I guess I kind of continued the same routine from high school to college. But every single morning, it was getting up, running a couple miles, if not more. And that's how I would start my morning before I went to classes. And I felt like that was a great way to start off the morning, like I said before, because it does get your brain working and your body working before I get to classes and other stuff.
Okay. So if we can't do like a run in the morning, because sometimes for kids that's not possible,
Yeah.
maybe do jumping jacks, right? That could
Yeah.
be something else, right? So I want to bring up this question that was asked by Jessica. I'll kind of read it out loud, and then Jeff, we can just kind of get into it. Okay. So Jessica says she would love to hear Jeff speak about how he got his executive functioning in control once the reading part of his dyslexia was under control. If you struggle with organization, working memory, and those sorts of things, how do you manage yourself? And how did you develop those skills once your reading issues were mostly under control? My dyslexic 11-year-old is an amazing reader now, but her executive functioning skills are a mess. Okay, go ahead. You got it.
Definitely. Yeah. So whenever I was a lot younger, I definitely struggled with the executive functioning aspect of it. Kind of fast forward to now, just to give you a little bit of hope. I feel like I kind of pride myself on my organization and my executive functioning skills because being pre-med, I'm in leadership of a couple different organizations. I work for Superpower. So there, on top of schooling, there's a lot of different extracurriculars that I'm doing that I have to keep track of as well. So I just wanted to say that to give you a little bit of hope for the future. But after I got my dyslexia under control, definitely for the organization and executive functioning part of it, I it was just I had to make sure to that was something I focused on each day. So whenever I was a kid, I didn't really care about the organization aspect of it. But then I realized how important it was to be able to stay on top of my homework assignments whenever I got to junior high and high school. So I think realizing the importance of the executive functioning aspect for your 11-year-old to realize that is really important. But then also just to practice it. So whether that's planning for the day or planning for upcoming events or organizing notes, etc., I think just daily practice on it was one of the best ways for me to be able to improve it.
Yeah. And I just want to touch upon this also, Jessica. It's a really great question. Executive function is one of those pieces where we have to understand just the organization of our day and of our time. You know what I mean? So you can get the reading part down, which is amazing, but there's this whole other piece to it, which is how we organize ourselves. Okay. And that can come with, in the morning, right? We can see what we have going on that day. A lot of times, if I can't visualize what's to come, it's very hard for me to work backwards from time, especially on the weekends. So yeah, I think that's going to be a super important piece. Whether it's having a calendar that, she can visualize and start to see all of those things at once, or really starting to simplify what are the areas where she can start to be successful slowly. We'll chip away slowly. We'll start to add from there. So Jeff, do you have anything else you want to add on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Jake said. Having some sort of, so I know it might not be the same for every other student with dyslexia, but at least for me, having some sort of hard copy instead of using something digital was a really great way for me to start out. Just because looking at the computer, my dyslexia, it made it a lot harder to read off the computer. So having that hard copy of a planner or of a calendar that I could plan for things in the upcoming day, weeks, and months, that was really important to be able to help with that executive function aspect.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was really good, Jessica. And if you have any follow-up questions on this, please go ahead and comment again, and we'll continue the talk. Again, in families, like if you have questions, just like Jessica or Sally, just any comments or anything, please. This is a really amazing opportunity to ask a dyslexic who turned their once disability into a superpower. So it's really inspiring, Jeff. And again, like we're very grateful for you to hop on here and share some of your wisdom. So, all right, let's continue. So now that we kind of started to master this morning, how do you communicate your dyslexia? So how do you go to your teacher and say, "Hi, teacher, like I have dyslexia. Like, this is part of how I learn." Like, tell me a little bit about how do you communicate your dyslexia to those that may not have it?
Yeah. And to kind of give some background on that, I know this is something that a lot of students with dyslexia struggle with, because whenever I first started out tutoring in about first grade, I would get pulled out of history class to go to a separate classroom for about an hour. And to be honest, I was really embarrassed of it. And I know that's not how it should be, but I felt like I was different from all the other students. And I think helping your student or your child realize that it is a superpower will help with that. But to go back to what Jake was saying, um, to build that confidence to go to ask other people about dyslexia and to be able to communicate my dyslexia with them, it took a lot of work on firstly confidence, and then also just a lot of practice with it. So whenever I went into high school, instead of my parents communicating that I had dyslexia with the professors, it was more that I had to communicate that I had dyslexia with the professors. And the first aspect that I realized is that there's nothing to be ashamed of, and I think that holds a lot of people back from talking about their dyslexia and being able to overcome it. So realizing that it's not something to be ashamed of, and it's also a superpower.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard because it's hard to talk about your dyslexia or any of your neurodiversity if you're struggling with your confidence piece. You know what I mean? And like having that confidence is tough to do it. So, okay, so wow. I want to talk about something a little controversial, which is the superpower piece, because I know there's a lot of controversy and talk around, well, how could dyslexia be a superpower if they're struggling and going through pain, and it sets unrealistic expectations because not all of them will be great and maybe they'll be average. Like, why are you calling dyslexia a superpower? Like, tell me.
Yeah. So like I was talking about earlier, there has been a lot of research that has proven that even though you might read differently, there has been a lot of proven positive aspects of dyslexia. So like I brought up earlier, creativity is one of those really big aspects. Um, So that's why I kind of call it a superpower, because even though you can think and learn differently from a lot of other students, there is this aspect that you kind of blow all the other students out of the water in that creativity aspect.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really brilliant. I love that. For those of you who don't know, Jeff is also part of a foundation called the Joseph James Morelli Foundation. And if you have a dyslexic child that is interested in STEM, I highly recommend keeping them on your radar because they give scholarships to dyslexic college students pursuing STEM majors. Okay. So definitely keep them on your radar. They're an incredible organization, and we run their mentorship program for them for incoming freshmen. So if you have a student or know someone with dyslexia that's entering college or in college, definitely check out the Morelli Foundation because, Jeff came from them, and they're really great. So,
yeah, and I would love to second that as well. The Morelli Foundation, speaking off of my experience, the Morelli Foundation has provided me not only with just financial support, but also with a mentoring program where I've been supported by other students, juniors and seniors, whenever I was a freshman, who helped me through all my struggles at the beginning of college. But then I've also been able to help other students get through their struggles with dyslexia and just social life of college while I'm a junior and senior and they're freshmen. So
yeah.
I would recommend if you do have a student who is going into college within the coming years.
Jeff, I want to just touch on the doctor piece because there is a lot of reading involved in that, and that can be pretty daunting. So why do you want to be a doctor?
Yeah, so that's definitely a great question. Me and my brother, we had a lot of health issues right at the beginning of high school. Thankfully, mine weren't as bad as his were, but he did end up having to be hospitalized for a couple of weeks. And during this time, we saw that there was some very great doctors who were compassionate. They had empathy. They were caring. And then there was other doctors who they did not have any of those positive aspects. So they were more blaming everything on my brother on why he had the health issues. And they just didn't seem like they really cared about him as a patient. So being able to see that dynamic between some of the really good doctors who have those positive characteristics and some of those not so great doctors who didn't have those positive characteristics, I knew that I really wanted to be able to be that positive light in other people's lives who might be experiencing situations similar to my brother.
Wow. That's really inspiring. Yeah, it's everyone has their why. You know what I mean? So I guess with that, Jeff, is there any words of wisdom that you'd like to leave for our audience, for the families that are watching you right now?
Yeah. I know that especially right now, it might seem like that you're not able to do it, or your child is not able to get through their struggles. But in the end, they will be able to overcome it. So I think that's the main thing that would want to tell the families is that whatever you're struggling through right now, it is overcomable, and the future is going to be great.
Oof. I got nothing else to say on that one. The only thing I'll say is that if you are interested in learning or signing your child up for our mentorship program, please reach out to us. You can visit our website at superpowermentors.com. We'll be happy to give a discount for coming from this interview. As always, we go live every Tuesday night. So again, just hop on next week. But if you have any further questions for Jeff, if you're watching this after the fact and you'd like to ask him any questions, you can always comment on the videos or send me a direct message, and I'll make sure that we pass that along to Jeff. All right. With that, Jeff, thank you so much for hopping on. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and we'll see you next week. Okay. Bye, everyone.